Hi. I'm Charles, 35, and the morning my entire family tree lit itself on fire started with a phone call I thought was spam. It was 5:30 a.m. I was half asleep, one sock on, drooling into my pillow, when my phone went off like it was trying to escape the nightstand. I didn't even look at the caller ID. I just slapped the screen and mumbled something that probably wasn't English. "Charles," a voice said. It was my neighbor Bruce. The guy who trims his lawn with the intensity of someone defusing a bomb. Yeah?" I croaked. "I think your grandma's sitting outside your front gate." I sat bolt upright like someone tasered me. "Wait, what? My grandma? Been there about 20 minutes. 2 suitcases. Just sitting." I didn't even hang up properly. I just launched myself out of bed, nearly tripping over the dog, and yanked on the first hoodie I found. My wife, Violet, blinked awake. "What's going on?" "My grandma's outside." That woke her up like a caffeine 4. She was right behind me as I threw open the front door. And there she was. My grandmother, Lorraine, 75, arthritic knees, the softest voice you can imagine, sitting on the freezing concrete like a forgotten Amazon delivery. 2 busted old suitcases flanking her. Not crying. Not calling out. Just staring at the ground, hands shaking. "Grandma?" I rushed to her. "What are you doing out here? What happened?" She didn't even look at me. Her skin felt cold. Too cold. Violet guided her inside while I grabbed the bags. One of them had a folded piece of paper jammed under the handle. I pulled it out. For words barely legible. We figured this was best. No names. No explanation. Just that. A slow, simmering heat built in my chest. Something old and heavy and familiar, anger that came with a calmness that scared even me. Because I knew exactly who had written that note. My parents. I opened the security cam app, rewound to 5 a.m. And there it was. My dad's SUV pulled up with its headlights off. My mom stepped out, helped Grandma wobble to the curb. Set the suitcases beside her. Got back in. Drove away. No knock. No call. No waiting to make sure she was safe. Just dumped her. Like an old mattress they didn't know what to do with. My hands actually shook. I called my dad. Straight to voicemail. Called again. Nothing. "Mom." Nothing. Grandma finally spoke from the couch, wrapped in blankets Violet brought. "I'm sorry, Charlie," she whispered. "I didn't want to be a bother." That did something dark to me. "No," I said, kneeling beside her. "You are not the one who did anything wrong." She gave a small, brittle smile. "Your father said Tyler and Olivia needed the room. The new baby. He said I'd be better off with you for a bit." "Ah. Of course. My brother. The golden boy. Tyler, 31. Tall, charming, allergic to responsibility, but apparently irresistible to our parents." I stood. "We're going over there today," I said. "I want answers." Grandma shook her head. "No fighting. Too late." By 9 a.m., I had already left 20 unanswered calls. Violet took our daughter to school and came back with a look that said she was as done as I was. We loaded Grandma into the car. She moved slowly, carefully, like she'd aged 10 years since last night. The drive to my parents' place felt like a countdown. When we pulled into their neighborhood, a moving truck was in the driveway. Tyler stood beside it laughing at something with Olivia like he hadn't indirectly caused an elderly woman to be abandoned in the cold. The anger that had been simmering all morning? Yeah. It finally boiled over. I slammed the car door and started walking toward them. Tyler noticed me first. His smile faded. Olivia's hands froze mid-unpacking. Inside the house, I could see my parents sitting at the kitchen table as if this was any other Saturday morning. I didn't bother with niceties. "What the hell did you do?" The door wasn't even fully open when I said it. My parents turned to me, my dad stone-faced, my mom with that annoyed, put upon expression she saves for when she's being mildly inconvenienced by her own bad behavior. Dad raised an eyebrow. She's staying with you now, he said flatly. What's the problem? The problem? Everything. And that was just the start. Dad's tone, casual, bored, like he was explaining a parking ticket, hit me so hard I actually laughed once out of disbelief. The problem, I said slowly, is that you left your 75-year-old mother on my sidewalk before sunrise like you were dumping a mattress at Goodwill. Mom sighed, the deep, theatrical kind she uses when she wants to signal she's the real victim here. Charles, she said, standing up as if this was about to be a respectful adult conversation. We're not doing dramatics. We had no choice. I stared at her. No choice, I repeated. No choice but to leave your own mother-in-law outside in 40-degree weather without knocking on the door? Mom folded her arms. She's been difficult. Difficult? Violet stepped through the doorway behind me, voice sharp. She forgets things sometimes. She has arthritis. That's difficult? Tyler scoffed behind us. Oh, here we go. I turned to look at him. He had the same expression he used to give me in high school when he'd steal my lunch and then act offended I mentioned it. Tyler, I said, did you just stand by while they did this? You couldn't stay somewhere else? A hotel? An Airbnb? You couldn't suck it up for a few weeks? He shrugged. Shrugged. I'm not blowing money on rent when we can stay here for free, he said casually. Family looks out for each other. I stepped toward him. You mean family looks out for you? My mom jumped in like she was moderating a talk show. Tyler and Olivia have a newborn, Charles. Do you know how stressful that is? And the house was getting crowded. Your grandmother, she's been too much recently. Too much, I repeated, disbelief tightening in my throat. Mom waved a dismissive hand. The noise. The TV too loud. She forgets things. She left the stove on. Grandma's voice floated from behind me, soft and small. I never left the stove on. I turned. She was leaning on Violet for support, eyes fixed on the floor. Not angry. Not defensive. Just tired. Mom stiffened. Well, you seemed like you were going to. There it was. The truth hidden under the excuses. It wasn't about safety. It wasn't about space. It was about convenience. You replaced her, I said flatly. You replaced your own mother with your golden boy and his family. My dad finally spoke, voice cold enough to frost glass. We will not be judged for making a difficult decision. It's not like we threw her onto the street. You literally did, I shot back. You just chose MY Street. Tyler crossed his arms, looking annoyed we were still talking about this. She wasn't happy at the house anyway, he muttered. She complained constantly. Everything was back when your grandfather was alive, like okay, we get it. I stepped toward him again. Violet grabbed my arm lightly, probably the only thing stopping me from getting domestic assault charges before noon. Tyler, I said, voice low. She gave up her retirement to help raise us. She paid your college deposit when Dad said it wasn't the right time financially. And this is how you repay her? Tyler's eyes flicked away for just a second. Then Olivia spoke, her voice tiny. I told them not to do it that way. I wanted to call you first. I turned to her. But you didn't. She swallowed. They said you'd understand. Understand? My dad clapped his hands once like we were done. All right. This is enough. If she's at your place and she's safe, then this conversation is over. My jaw clenched. We're not done. Mom stood, coffee cup in hand. Well, we are. She's your responsibility now. Grandma's breath hitched quietly behind me. Violet stepped forward. Responsibility? She said. You tossed her on a curb. Dad pointed sharply at the door. Get out. Now. Or I'm calling the police. I almost laughed. Police? Please. What exactly will you tell them? I said. That you abandoned an elderly woman in the cold, and your son got mad about it. Dad's face reddened. Out. I turned to Grandma. Let's go, I said gently. We don't belong here. None of them stopped us. Not Tyler. Not Olivia. Not my parents. They just watched silently as we helped Grandma to the car like she was a stranger they'd inconvenienced. And when we drove away, not one person stepped onto the porch to even pretend they regretted it. The silence in the car was heavy. Finally, I said it. I'm filing a report. Grandma gasped. No, Charles, no. We don't need. They made you a problem, I said. I'm just giving them consequences. Violet nodded. Let's go today. Grandma stared out the window. They'll say I tore the family apart. They threw you out like trash, I said. They tore themselves. She didn't argue. She couldn't. Because she knew it was true. When we walked into the police station, I expected maybe a shrug, a family drama, not our problem. Nope. Turns out dumping an elderly woman on a curb like she's bulk trash qualifies as an actual criminal offense. Who knew? The detective who met with us, Detective Blake, mid-50s, graying temples, the patience of a man who's seen too many Thanksgiving-related assaults, sat across from us in a small interview room. Tell me exactly what happened, he said. I didn't ramble. I laid it out with surgical precision. 5 a.m. Drop off. Freezing weather. Security footage. The note. Grandma's medical history. Her financial contributions. The complete lack of notice. 20+ unanswered calls. Violet backed me up with times and details. I handed over the USB with the footage. Blake watched it silently, jaw tightening. When it ended, he leaned back and exhaled sharply. This is elder abandonment, he said. Clear as day. My stomach clenched. Not from fear. From vindication. Then he added. And quite possibly financial exploitation. That one hit harder. What do you mean? I asked. He pointed at the transfers from Grandma's bank statements. Months of bill help utilities, Tyler. Always the same amounts, no receipts. If she was giving them money, and they still tossed her out, Blake said, that's a pattern. He called APS, Adult Protective Services, right in front of us. A woman named Grace arrived within half an hour. Sharp eyes. No nonsense. The kind of person who could stare down a hurricane. She listened, took notes, then asked, Is the grandmother safe with you? Yes, I said immediately. Violet added, She has her own room, proper heat, meals. She's stable. Grace nodded. Good. Then we'll schedule an evaluation. But based on what I've heard, this is grounds for a court summons. Grandma looked mortified. I don't want them in trouble. I squeezed her hand. They got themselves in trouble. The next week was quiet in that eerie way right before a storm hits. Grandma settled in quickly. Sophie, our daughter, made her drawings and taped them to Grandma's wall. Violet made her tea. I fixed the recliner. It felt like a home we didn't realize was incomplete before. Then, Friday morning, the email hit my inbox. Preliminary hearing scheduled. Charges: elder neglect. Elder abandonment. Financial misconduct. I didn't gloat. I didn't tell my parents. I let the system do that for me. Tuesday. 9 a.m., courthouse. We walked in together, me, Violet, Grandma, who insisted on wearing her nicest cardigan. Because courtrooms are cold. My parents sat on the other side. Mom looked like she'd aged 10 years in 2 weeks. Dad looked furious. Tyler looked annoyed to be inconvenienced before noon. The judge, a silver-haired man built entirely out of zero tolerance, opened with, Mr. Charles Bennett. You filed the complaint? Yes, Your Honor. Present your case. So I did. Calm. Clear. No theatrics. I handed the note to the clerk. Handed over the footage. The judge watched the video and paused it at the exact frame where my parents drove off. He blinked once. Slowly. Then he turned to my parents. Explain this. Mom immediately launched into her patented victim monologue. We just wanted what was best for Lorraine. She was becoming confused and argumentative. Olivia just had a baby. The judge cut her off. I did not ask about Olivia. I asked why you abandoned a 75-year-old woman without notice or supervision. Dad stepped forward with the confidence of a man who thinks authority is something he personally invented. We were not abandoning her. We were relocating her. He really said that. Like she was an old refrigerator being moved to the garage. The judge stared at him like he just witnessed a raccoon deliver legal advice. You left her on a sidewalk in freezing temperatures, the judge said flatly. Without notification. Without verifying her safety. Without legal authority. Dad opened his mouth again. The judge raised a hand. Don't dig deeper. Then it got worse. For them. APS had done a full financial review. Grace handed the judge a report with highlighted transfers. 30 months. Same amounts. Always from Grandma to my parents. Never reciprocated. The judge's expression hardened. You drained this woman's fixed income, he said, and discarded her when she was no longer convenient to you. Silence. Mom sniffed dramatically. Dad clenched his jaw. Tyler slid lower in his seat, clearly realizing this was not a let's all stay calm situation. Then came the midpoint blow-up. Dad stood, loudly, and pointed at Grandma. You're not my mother, he snapped. A real mother would never let her son be dragged into court like this. The entire room inhaled sharply. Grandma didn't yell. Didn't cry. She just stood, steadier than I'd seen her in years, and said, I raised my son. You raised yourself. The judge actually smiled. Case closed, he said. Fines. Probation. Mandatory courses. Grandma's residency legally transferred to me. Restraining options pending. Tyler didn't speak once. Probably for the best. He only ever had 2 functional brain cells and both were busy blinking. When it ended, my parents shuffled out looking like someone had unplugged their life support. Grandma held onto my arm and whispered, I'm free. And for the first time, I believed her. But the twist? The real twist? That came the next night, when Grandma called us into the living room, pulled out an envelope, and changed everything we thought we knew. Grandma waited until after dinner. She sat on the couch with her hands folded neatly in her lap, calm, almost too calm, while Violet dried dishes and I tried, and failed, to convince Sophie that slime does not go inside the dog's ears. Then Grandma said, Charles? Violet? Could you come here for a moment? Her voice was steady. Controlled. Almost rehearsed. We both sat. She pulled an envelope from under the couch cushion. A thick one. Cream-colored. Heavy paper. The kind of envelope lawyers use when they know the recipient might faint. I didn't tell anyone, she said softly, because I wanted to see how people treated me when they thought I had nothing. My pulse actually stumbled. Grandma handed me the envelope. Inside were documents. Deeds. Bank statements. Account summaries. Legal letters. Investment reports. I flipped page after page until the ink started to blur. Grandma, I whispered, throat tightening. This is a lot of money. She nodded once. A bit. A bit? The number at the bottom of the consolidated report was not a bit. It was $51 million. Violet gasped so hard I thought she swallowed her tongue. Grandma continued calmly, folding her hands again. I sold the land my sister left me years ago. The restaurant your grandfather and I worked at. I owned a share. A silent share. I never told your father because he'd have drained it dry. She said it like she was complaining about the weather. He always thought I had nothing, she added, with the faintest smile, which made it easier to keep it away from him. I stared at her. You hid $51 million from Dad. And Tyler, she said. Especially Tyler. Violet blinked. Why didn't you ever tell anyone? Grandma shrugged. I didn't need anything. And I wanted to know who loved me, not my money. She gestured at the paperwork in my hands. You two did. So now it's yours. Violet's jaw dropped. What? I bought something some years ago, Grandma said. A property. Small coastal place. Peaceful. Thought I'd retire there one day, but life had other plans. She handed me another envelope. Inside were keys. Property maps. Business licenses. You, she said, are now the legal owners of a resort in Monterey. I think my soul left my body for a moment. A resort, I repeated. 50 rooms, she added. Nice gardens. Spa. The couple who run it are lovely. Violet covered her mouth with both hands. Grandma, this is unreal. Grandma smiled. You once joked about opening a place by the beach, remember? I blinked. Years ago. On our anniversary. Half joke, half dream. A faraway maybe. She'd remembered. I don't want applause, she said. I want a rest. And I want to know that everything I worked for isn't going to people who'd trade me for a nursery room. She said it plain, like she wasn't dropping a bomb big enough to flatten half the state. I laughed. A stunned, shaky, borderline hysterical laugh. Grandma, I said, I don't know what to say. Say you'll use it wisely, she said. Quietly. Carefully. And never let people like your father near it. Violet wiped her eyes. We will. Grandma leaned back, satisfied. And Charles? She added, almost as an afterthought. Yes? This is not revenge. This is reward. That line stuck in my chest and didn't leave. We visited the Monterey property that weekend. Drove 5 hours in stunned silence. And there it was. A small cliffside resort shaded by cypress trees. 50 rooms. A spa that smelled like eucalyptus and peace. A reading lounge with floor-to-ceiling windows. Gardens that looked like time slowed down for them. The retired couple who managed it greeted us at the door. You must be the new owners, the wife said with a warm smile. We hoped you'd keep the garden. We nodded. We stayed 2 days. Walked the grounds. Talked logistics. Not once did we talk about quitting our jobs. We talked about building smart, not burning down our lives. On the drive home, Violet rested her hand on mine. We'll figure it out, she said. No rushing. No dramatic life flips. Just steady. Just like Grandma, I said. We didn't post anything. Didn't brag. Didn't tell a soul. But someone found out anyway. Because 2 days later, on Saturday morning, the doorbell rang. I checked the peephole. My mom. Holding a pie. Dad behind her. Tyler, in slacks, yes, slacks, holding a photo album like he was auditioning for Most Improved Son. Hi, sweetheart. My mom called through the door. We've been thinking about you. And about Lorraine. Behind me, Grandma appeared at the end of the hallway like a general entering the battlefield. Mom smiled too wide. Can we come in? She asked. We just want to reconnect. Before I could open my mouth, Grandma said, voice crisp and sharp. You didn't care when I was freezing on a sidewalk. Mom froze. Dad blinked fast. Tyler looked like he'd forgotten how knees work. Grandma lifted her chin. You can keep the pie. But the door stays closed. I shut it. Not with a slam. With finality. Clean. Quiet. Done. But it wasn't over. Not even close. Because Monday morning, I filed for a full household restraining order. And that was just the beginning. The courthouse clerk raised an eyebrow when I slid the packet across the counter. Full household restraining order, I said. She flipped through the pages. My name, Violet's name, Sophie's name, Grandma's name, then the supporting documents. Heavy checkmark police report. Heavy checkmark APS findings. Heavy checkmark court ruling from Judge Kenley. Heavy checkmark hospital note from Grandma's doctor. Heavy checkmark screenshots of Tyler's threats. Heavy checkmark my dad's guilt-soaked letter. The clerk whistled softly. Family situation? More like a cleanup, I said. She stamped, filed, processed, and handed me the confirmation. Sheriff will serve them personally, she said. No contact, no approach, no gifts, no fake apologies. Perfect. I walked out feeling lighter. Like I'd finally locked the gate that should have been closed years ago. 2 days later, the sheriff showed up on their doorstep. Tyler answered the door. He looked like someone had scooped the smugness right out of him with a spoon. Mom came running into the frame yelling, "This is a misunderstanding. Miscommunication. We're a family." The sheriff handed her the packet. Dad stormed forward. "This is harassment. This is ungrateful. This is your fault, Lorraine." The sheriff didn't blink. "You are legally ordered to refrain from all contact. Any violation will result in arrest." Door shut. Case closed. But the universe wasn't done with them. Not even close. 3 days later, Olivia showed up. Alone. No Tyler. No parents. No drama. Just her and the baby. She knocked once, soft, unsure, and stepped back. Violet opened the door but didn't invite her in. Olivia swallowed hard. "I'm not here to beg," she said. "I'm not asking for money." Grandma walked up behind us silently, leaning on the hallway wall. Olivia's voice shook. "I just wanted to say, I'm sorry." Not cried out sorry. Not performing sorry. Actual regret. "When they kicked you out," Olivia said, "I didn't speak up. I wanted to, but I was scared of making things worse. You didn't deserve that. I think about it every day." Grandma studied her for several long seconds. Not with softness. With calculation. "And if I'd frozen to death that morning?" Grandma asked. "Would you still be silent?" Olivia didn't flinch. "I don't know," she whispered. "But I would have hated myself for it." Grandma nodded once. A single, sharp approval. "Are you still with Tyler?" she asked. Olivia shook her head. "No." "After he blamed me for losing the inheritance," he snapped. "Punched a hole in the wall. I packed the baby and left." Grandma looked at the baby. "She have enough formula? Diapers?" Olivia nodded. "We're managing," Grandma said. "Leave your number with Charles. If Emily," she pointed at the baby, "ever needs something important, I will help. But don't come here again. Not out of anger. Just to keep the peace clean." Olivia nodded, eyes wet but not begging. She placed a sticky note with her number into my hand. "Thank you," she whispered to Grandma. "Good choices earn help," Grandma said. "Not blood." And Olivia left. Simple. Quiet. Honest. The kind of interaction my family was incapable of. But while some people grew up, others fell apart. Tyler posted on Facebook, "Snakes in the family? Money changes people." People replied, "Didn't your grandmother raise you? Dude, you left her outside at dawn. Hope you step on a Lego." Mom spammed my voicemail with, "We can fix this." And, "You'll regret shutting us out." Dad sent a handwritten letter about legacy and fair distribution and rights as your father. I scanned it, added it to the restraining order file, shredded the original. When I showed Grandma the line about legacy, she just said, "They still think I owe them something." Then she picked up her phone, called her attorney, and said, "Let's finalize everything. I'm ready to sign." That afternoon? New will. New beneficiaries. New protections. New trusts. Tyler removed. My parents removed. Every cousin who ever circled for money, removed. Olivia's baby? A supervised trust, monthly releases only for essentials. Me? Full beneficiary. Violet included by name. Sophie's education fully funded. And a clause. Anyone who contests the will forfeits their share entirely to a homeless shelter. Grandma signed it with hands steady as stone. She didn't brag. She didn't gloat. She just said, "I'd like a cup of tea now." 2 weeks later, Tyler tried to challenge Grandma's mental capacity through a sketchy lawyer. APS records shut that down in 4 days. Then my mother sent a letter full of faux healing and, "Let's reunite in Monterey." I shredded it in 6 seconds. Then silence. Days. Weeks. No knocking. No fake apologies. No guilt traps. Just peace. Real peace. Grandma sat out back every night on the swing with Sophie, watching the sun slip behind the neighbor's roof. She didn't look over her shoulder anymore. She didn't ask, "What if they show up?" She looked free. Like a woman who finally understood that the people she'd served her whole life had never deserved her. And then, the final collapse. Tyler moved back in with my parents. 2 months later they kicked him out. Why? He maxed out 2 credit cards trying to impress a new girlfriend and attempted to borrow from their joint savings. When they refused, he broke a lamp and punched a cabinet. They called the cops, not to file a report, just to scare him. It didn't work. He left that night. No one knows where he is now. They don't even post about him. My parents? Now isolated. Shunned. Forgotten. Not because we ruined them. Because they did it to themselves. And Grandma? She wakes up early. Makes pancakes too thin. Brews coffee too strong. Walks slowly but freely around a house where everyone wants her. Loves her. Shows up for her. Last week she handed me a sealed envelope. "Open it when I'm gone," she said. "Not before." I nodded. Not because I cared about what was inside, but because the truth is, we already won. We built something real. A home that actually means home. A family that actually acts like family. A life where love isn't a transaction. Grandma gave us more than money. She gave us peace. And the ones who threw her away? They get to live with that decision every day. Good. Life didn't explode after that. It settled. Into something quieter. Steadier. Better. But it didn't settle for them. Because what happens when people lose the thing they thought they controlled? The person they thought would always be there. The money they assumed would funnel their way. The loyalty they believed was automatic? They panic. They scramble. And then, they crumble. It started with the calls. Unknown numbers. Blocked IDs. Local but unassigned area codes. Always the same pattern. 1 missed call. 3 seconds. Another. 4 seconds. Another. Then nothing for a day. Then a voicemail with no voice, just the sound of my father's breathing like he was too proud to speak but too desperate not to try. I ignored them all. My phone had never been this quiet and loud at the same time. Next came the letters. First from my mother. 3 pages of guilt, half prayers, half demands. She wrote phrases like, "We're still your parents. You're letting outsiders control our family. Money has poisoned your mind." The irony almost choked me. My favorite part? She underlined the sentence. "You will regret abandoning us." I laughed. Out loud. In the kitchen. With Grandma watching sitcoms in the next room. I shredded the letter before I finished reading it. Then the cousins got involved. Apparently my parents called them one by one, spinning some story about me, kidnapping Grandma or brainwashing her or stealing her inheritance. Only one cousin actually reached out. She texted, "Your mother says there was a misunderstanding. Is Grandma okay?" I replied with a single photo of Grandma sitting on the porch swing with Sophie, eating popsicles, smiling like she hadn't smiled in a decade. The cousin responded. Yeah, that's what I thought. Thanks. And that was the end of that. But the biggest hit? The one they never saw coming? It came from the only place they ever cared about. The community. The same neighborhood where my parents used to strut like they were royalty. The same church where my mom hosted brunches and whispered about other people's families. The same circle where Dad loved to brag about being the responsible patriarch. Everyone saw the court documents. Everyone heard about the APS investigation. Everyone watched the sheriff drop off the restraining order. Grandma wasn't just a relative. She was well known. Well liked. A retired teacher who ran bake sales and tutored half the neighborhood's kids. You don't dump someone like that at dawn and walk away clean. The social fallout was nuclear. My parents tried to host a family cookout at their place 2 months later. 3 people came. All 3 left within an hour. Word travels fast in small communities. And loud. But here's the twist no one predicted. Not me. Not Violet. Not even Grandma. The Monterey Resort, our quiet, golden little secret, became ours. Truly ours. We didn't quit our jobs. Didn't run off to start a new life. Didn't make a big announcement. We just built. One weekend at a time. Painted rooms. Listened to the managers. Fixed little things. Imagined big ones. The place became more than a business. It became a future. Our daughter running barefoot through the lobby, handing flowers to guests. Grandma sitting on the veranda with her knitting and a cup of her too strong coffee. Violet planning themed weekends and making Pinterest boards like she was preparing for war. Me repainting doors, fixing faucets, tightening bolts I didn't even know existed. It was work. Real work. But happy work. The kind that feels like building a life instead of surviving one. One night, after a long day of sanding an entire hallway because the previous paint job was applied by someone clearly fighting for their life, Grandma called me to the deck. Sit, she said, tapping the chair beside her. I did. We watched the moonlight glitter on the water, the sound of waves filling the quiet. Then she reached into her cardigan pocket and pulled out a tiny, folded piece of paper. Not the envelope, she said. That's still for later. This is something else. She handed it to me. I opened it carefully. Inside, in her small, steady handwriting, were 5 words. I finally feel at home. My throat tightened. She patted my hand. You gave me that, she said. No, I whispered. You gave it to yourself. She smiled, soft and proud. I just needed the right people around me. We sat there for a long time. No anger. No shocks. No drama. Just peace. The one thing she'd never had in that other house. The one thing we were all learning to build together. Months later, we were back home when the mail came. A plain white envelope addressed to me. My mother's handwriting. I didn't open it. I didn't even bring it inside. I dropped it straight into the trash bin on the curb, closed the lid, and walked away. Some things don't need to be read. Some people don't need access. Some choices don't deserve reconsideration. Our life didn't magically become perfect because Grandma had money. It became perfect because we chose the right people. And because the wrong ones showed their true colors early enough that we didn't have to keep pretending. Family isn't defined by blood. It's defined by who shows up at 5:30 in the morning. And who leaves you on the sidewalk. Grandma showed up for me my whole life. And when it was our turn, we opened the door. We brought her inside. We fought for her. We protected her. We built a home around her, not a burden. And the people who couldn't do that, they get to live with themselves. Every single day. The truth is, we didn't lose a family. We gained one.